Bill Cosby is free. Bill Cosby is free. Bill Cosby is free. He is not in prison anymore. And I woke up today and I was thinking about the economic implications of what Bill Cosby has gone through. And some of you have been asking me and wondering how this whole scandal, this whole situation, all these accusations have affected his net worth. So I'm going to break that down for you. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt, hit the thumbs up button. We're going to get started on the Black Financial Channel right now. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm your friendly neighborhood finance professor. On the Black Financial Channel, we talk about Black wealth and Black economics every day, sometimes as much as 10 times a day, under one condition. The condition is that you must be B1. B1 means that you're Black first. Black first means we solve our own problems. We ain't waiting for Superman. We ain't waiting for white folks' permission. B1 means that we understand Black people can be number one in wealth building and economics and economic intelligence within the next 50 years. B1 also means that we understand we must be one in order to be successful. So if you agree with this philosophy, put a hashtag B and the number one in the chat, hashtag B1. And so let me ask you guys a question. Just so you know, I'm on the last day of my honeymoon. But y'all, Alicia is my first love, and y'all also my first love. So she gave me full permission to come in here and talk to you guys every now and then about what's going on. So let me know if you guys can hear me okay. The Wi-Fi here in this hotel is a little bit sketchy, so every now and then I'm gonna check, and I'm gonna ask you to give me a yes, a verbal confirmation to let me know that you can hear me. Give me a yes in the chat if I'm coming through okay, if you can hear me all right, and all that good stuff. That way I know I can move forward. Hello, Janice, Christian, and Larry Lott, and Abraham, and Nathaniel, and Eugenius. Okay, I'm waiting for my yeses. Okay, great. Thank you for the yeses. I appreciate that. All right, so hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. All right, so Bill Cosby is free, and I know that that's a mixed topic. I know that a lot of people are feeling some kind of way about it, good and bad. There's some people who think Cosby is a national treasure. Some people think Cosby is just a criminal. I will tell you what, I did a poll today on Twitter, and I said, do you think Cosby's a national treasure, or do you think that he is a criminal? And 40% of you, I'm not going to use the R word because I don't want to set off the bots on Twitter. And 40% of you on my Twitter anyway, my Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins one, Dr. Boyce Watkins is the number one. And 40% of you said he's a national treasure. 10% of you said that he's a criminal. 16% said he's both. 34% said neither. Neither. So the conversation about Cosby is all over the place. Everybody has an opinion, and the opinions are left, right, and center. And I'll tell you what, we could talk more about the logistics of it in terms of the ethics behind it and everything else. And also later on today, I actually want to talk about some of the backlash that Felicia Rashad has been getting for standing up, for Cosby. By basically saying back in 2015 that the attacks, the allegations against Cosby, that they were orchestrated. Felicia believes that somebody decided to do this. That part, I'll let you decide how you feel about that. But I can say that there are some segments of the Black liberal establishment that are really mad at Felicia for saying that. They're really, they're trying to cancel her and go after her. And she's at Howard University. I'll be curious to see how Howard chooses to stand by her. And I'll tell you what, I liked what Felicia said. Not because I think I know what Cosby did or did not do. I just like the idea, of Felicia reminding Black men that of why you have to really show respect. We have to bow down to those quality Black women in our community. And I consider Felicia Rashad to be in that category. I consider Camille Cosby to be in that category. I think as Black men, when you're hearing, a lot of the little boys in our community, I'm talking about 40, little boys who some of whom are 30, 40, 50 years old, little boys saying, Black women ain't this and Black women ain't that, and and don't nobody want to be with no Black woman that's got kids and whatever they say. I think it's important for us to take a moment and to just reflect on the fact that the Black woman has been, for you, Black man, the Black woman has been your last line of defense for about 400 years. The Black woman has been the one who has been protecting you when those people are coming after you. When Massa was coming after you and he's going to hang you from a tree because you looked at a white woman, it was the Black woman who hid you in the basement. the black woman who was willing to tell a lie to the massa in order to keep you from getting beat that day, right? And I really think that that we have to really make sure as black men that we watch our mouths when we're talking about black women. You know, it's okay to be critical in certain situations. It's okay to tell the truth. It's okay to have your grievances, but just check your words, man. Check, show that respect like you did with your mama. You know, there's a line you cannot cross, in my view. So Felicia, shout out to Felicia Rashad for telling her truth. I'm not saying that her truth is the only truth. You can say whatever you want about Cosby. I'm not gonna get offended if you say, "Nah, I think he did it," or "No, he deserves whatever you think. You have a right to think that. But I really think it's important that we talk about people's rights to express their truth without persecution. Also, Cosby's right to a fair trial. I did not agree with the release of Cosby because I think he's a perfect innocent man. I agree with the release of Cosby because the man shouldn't have been in prison because they didn't have the evidence to put him away. They didn't have what they needed to win that case. So that's the issue there. So all right, so here we go. So let's see. Somebody by the name of D's Nuts says, "Got to put some simping in there." All right. So first of all, that name D's Nuts, that just says you probably not qualified to be in this platform. And two, if you think that loving black women is simping, then that makes you officially a Klansman. So everybody say goodbye, D. So everybody type goodbye, D, because D has been banned for life from the platform. So I hate to do this to you, brother, but you got to go. And anybody else in here who's bringing the nigga net with them or that ridiculous mentality with them to this platform, just go ahead, please say something so I can ban you, because I really want to ban you because you don't belong here. This is a place for people that believe in black love. If you don't believe in it, then you should go somewhere else. Go hang out with the other Klansmen and the Trump supporters or whoever you hang out with that makes you think it's okay to disrespect your mama and still be a part of this community. You can't disrespect black women and be a part of the space. I'm sorry. So anyway, let me keep going. All right, so hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Let's talk about Cosby and his net worth. First thing I'm going to say is this. I was pleasantly surprised to see that Cosby's net worth was $400 million, according to Celebrity Net Worth. That's a surprisingly big number. I ain't gonna lie. I was floored to see that his net worth was is 400 million. How many of y'all feel like feel like that is a big number? I mean, how many of you feel that's a surprise? I don't know. I was kind of blown away. And that really also says that that this man must have had an insane amount of money before all this stuff began. And in fact, if you really process it the right way, you would realize, I guess, with Cosby making so much money over so many years, and and just positioning himself so well that he was probably going to be a billionaire. Think about this. Who else are the other billionaires that are out here now that have been around for a while? Michael Jordan is a billionaire. Of course, Oprah's been a billionaire for a long time. So you can imagine that Cosby, if Oprah is a billionaire, has been a billionaire for about 30 years, I think, then it wouldn't be a surprise that Cosby would be a billionaire. Because one thing I'll tell you about Oprah and Cosby is this. Oprah and Cosby are two people who always were known for being incredibly smart with their money. They were always very careful about where every dollar went. They weren't the types of people who were just going to blow all their wealth. Like my hero Muhammad Ali, I love him to death. I mean, he's literally my number two, or not. He's tied for number one of my all time greats with Malcolm X. Ali, I'm not really sure if Ali was the best with money. That's why, again, another example of how a quality black woman. Now, I'm not talking about the cheap ones. I'm talking about the quality women. A quality woman can help you out, because Lonnie, his wife, came along after all those cheap women had ran through his money. Anybody know that story? How Lonnie, Muhammad Ali's wife, had admired him since she was very little. They lived across the street, and when everybody got done, pretty much pillaging him, pretty much stripping him of all of his wealth. All these cheap women ran through him financially. Lonnie was the one who came along and said, I think there's something here, and I can help you build this up and manage this. She has a master's degree, if I'm not mistaken, an MBA from UCLA or something like that, something really solid. And she is the person who is responsible for the fact that Ali died a very wealthy man and a very distinguished and respected man, respected around the globe, right? So so that quality woman can really make a difference for you. And that really, I think explains why smart men choose women like that, because that woman can enhance the value of your existence. So with Cosby, um, I would almost say that it's like a tale of two cities when it comes to his economic intelligence. On one hand, he was very smart, very careful, and capable when it came to managing his money. I don't know if y'all knew this or not, but he had a deal with the Cosby Show where he literally got 20% of the profits from that show. Did anybody know that? That Bill Cosby was set to get 20% of the profits from that show. And that show, in syndication, made about $1.5 billion just from the syndication, right? And of course you add that to commercial endorsements, and he would go do shows in Las Vegas and places like that and make just insane amounts of money, global world tours and all this everything else. This man had a ridiculous amount of money pouring toward him. So on one hand, he was super savvy and super smart. He was an extraordinary wealth builder. He was generous. He put his money toward purposes that were going to benefit the community. That was a beautiful thing. But then on the other side, there's obviously that darker side where we don't know what's going on in his bedroom. We don't know who he's hanging out with. We don't know. I mean, just the situations he was in, just the types of people he had around him, the sketchiness of some of the people that said, "Oh yeah, I'm hanging out with Bill Cosby." That always bothered me. That always bothered me because I never understood how you can have a man who is highly admired in the black community. Black people literally will bite off they left pinky toe in order to just have a conversation with him, but yet you've got these scraggly white women that are like, "Oh yeah, Bill's my buddy. I have great access to Bill. I can call him anytime." And I'm sitting there thinking, why could this scraggly lady over here call Bill Cosby whenever she wants? But you got black women out here and black men that just love and admire him, and they can't ever get this guy on the phone. And I think that comes into this whole idea of sometimes I'm not sure, but I almost wonder if Cosby forgot who he was. If he forgot that he was black. I think he remembered that he was black on some level, but then there's another level where you're thinking, what are you doing? Like you really think you can go to the Playboy Mansion and just get it in with whoever happens to be there and not have somebody eventually strip you of your wealth? There are lots of wealthy black men who have a ton of money who are in situations where they become economically vulnerable. It could be the NBA athlete who has the Jewish accountant and the lawyer, that's some white guy, and the investment advisor who's not black, and then these people are taking him for a ride, and because they only want anything to do with him when he's wealthy. They didn't want nothing to do with you when you were poor, broken in the projects. That was when black people loved you. When you were struggling, when you was a nobody, your mama loved you and your homies loved you. The community loved you. But now that you done came up, now that you're the number 3 draft pick, well, then suddenly all these people who wanted nothing to do with you, all the little Beckys at the parties, all these people that wanted nothing to do with you when you were poor and broke or and sitting in the hood, suddenly all these people are surrounding you, right? And to some extent, these are individuals who, in some cases, are predators. They are surrounding you like parasites. They're eating off of you. You have become a financial asset in their life. You are an asset, no different from the Bitcoin they own or the stocks and bonds they own or some real estate they own. So they say, so what's your net worth, Mr. White Man? Well, I own 100,000 in crypto, and I've got another 800,000 in stocks and bonds. I own 3 houses and 2 Negroes. I own 2 Negroes. They one plays for the Boston Celtics, the other one plays for the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's how I eat. That's how I make money, right? And so ultimately, what you have to understand is that when you have more money, you're going to attract more people. I never made more friends. I never had an easier time making friends and attracting women than I did when I started making more money. But here's the thing. One thing that I learned about economics, and this is important. This is where I go into a different space, a different zone than say a typical like financial guy. I'm not a black man. I'm not a finance professor who happens to be black. I'm a black man who happens to be a finance professor. Where I go into a different zone is that through all my 25, 30 years of studying economic theory and how money works, I learned over time, I said, wait a minute, the dynamics of economic strength the foundations and the fundamentals of wealth building, they shift a little bit when it comes to being a black man. That when you are black, the rules are a little bit different. When you are black, your economic consciousness must extend beyond the amount of money in your bank account. It cannot stop with just how much money you have, or your ability to make more money, or what kind of job you have. It has to go into all of the socioeconomic and political aspects of what it means to be black in America. See, being black means that the rules are not the same for you. I hate to tell you this, and I'm not preaching to Mr. Cosby or anything like that. Y'all know I've been a supporter of Cosby being freed for a long time, but I'm gonna break it down in the way that I think is most accurate. With Cosby, I really would love to say to someone like him, like, look, man, you ain't white. You're not white. There's no amount of money that you can have on this earth anywhere at any time that's going to take the melanin out of your skin and make you into a white guy. It doesn't mean that you're oppressed. He's not oppressed. He has tremendous amount of privilege. If I had a choice between white privilege and wealth privilege, I'll take the wealth privilege. Give me the I'll take the wealth for 200, Alex. I'll take the wealth. The wealth privilege exceeds the white privilege. I'm sorry. I'd rather be a rich black man than a poor white man any day of the week. I don't know if y'all agree with me or not, but I don't think a toothless redneck in Tennessee has as much power as a black man with $100 million in the bank. That's just from what my experience has been. So with Cosby, he did have a certain amount of privilege that came with being wealthy and powerful. But what also you must understand is that, and this is what only wealthy people kind of get, I think, and this is what you'll understand as you become wealthy, because most of you, because you're here, your families are going to be in a good economic position. This is an important message you must pass on to your sons and your daughters, especially your sons, but your daughters too. Pass it to your family. When you become wealthy, your goal is no longer to figure out how to make more money. You've done that. You did that part. You done won the championships. The trophies are already in the trophy case. Your goal is not to figure out how to make more money. Your goal is to learn how to protect it. And the thing about protecting your money is it's deeper than just diversifying your portfolio and making sure you have the appropriate allocation of stocks, bonds, and the right mutual funds, and making sure your real estate portfolio is properly insured. No, 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 no. Or estate planning and all that. Yeah, that you can learn that in a textbook. No, it's about protecting yourself from the fact that when you get big money, you got a target on your back. You have a target on your back. When you get big money, you're going to attract all different kinds of people that you never would have attracted if you had been broke. First of all, if you're a man, I will just tell you, this is I have a little bit of money. I've never had Bill Cosby money, but I got enough money to know what it's like to have some money. I'll tell you what, um, for men, you brothers, you will never be more handsome than you are when you have money in the bank. When you have money in the bank, suddenly you're gonna really think you went from being a 6 to a 10. Suddenly you will have the attention of lots of women who instinctually, through 100,000 years of evolution, have known how to somehow, almost as if it's like a psychic capability, like almost like psychics, they can smell which man is doing well and which one isn't. I'm not saying that they're gold diggers. I actually think this is natural. I really do. I've read books on biology, and women understand which men have resources. It's not just humans, even giraffes. The male giraffes who get enough ass. This is a fun fact. The male giraffes who get the most access to vagina tend to be the giraffes who have the most territory. Did y'all know that? That if you're a giraffe and you own no land and you control no property, then you don't get to reproduce. But if you control a big area of land and you have some real estate, then all the women are going to come to you. So this is not a gold digging thing. This is just a human being thing. Another thing that happens when you get a lot of money is you become easily sued. Will Smith said that he has to have 15 lawyers on retainer. I think he said 15 lawyers on retainer at all times because he gets sued so much. He said these crazy frivolous lawsuits come out of nowhere. Somebody's like, man, you looked at me funny. I'm gonna sue you for $100 billion, hoping that you'll write me $50,000 check to make it all go away, right? So you attract lawsuits. What else do you attract? You attract sob stories. My God, Bill Cosby's are already around a lot of actors and actresses And I'm sure they use every ounce of their acting potential and ability to cry in front of him. You know, little Becky tears. Y'all know Becky tears are made out of gold, right? Out of gold and cotton candy. Y'all know that Becky tears will get you a conviction. You don't need no evidence. If you got a bucket of Becky tears, you can get whatever you want. So I'm sure he had plenty of Becky tears on his lap every single day, every single week. And you can't convince me that every single woman that was around Cosby was in a situation she didn't want to be in. I'm sure there were plenty of women that wanted to be around Cosby because he was very powerful. Also, the thing is that when you are a black man and you have that kind of money, you're especially vulnerable because people know that they can accuse you of things and people will believe them just because you're black. And then at that point, you got Gloria Allred using her white female privilege to pull together a big pile of Becky tears with a bunch of people with unfounded allegations to do a press conference with other white media. They all work together. They all conspire together to basically say this man. We don't know if he's guilty for sure, but we have our evidence consists of 15 white women and a bucket of Becky tears, and we got a press conference because I'm white and the head of the LA Times is white. And we got together and decided that we're going to do a national press conference to accuse you and to attack you. And we're going to do so much damage from the press conference that it won't even matter if we ever have a trial. We're not going to have a trial. We may not even get that far because we've already caused you $100 million in economic damage due to the fact that we have now made you toxic. We have now made your name and your brand toxic. So the thing about it is, as a black man in this country, you can't keep a squeaky clean brand. That ain't gonna happen. You can't keep a squeaky clean brand because just like Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, just like Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921, just like Tulsa, just like all the other instances that have occurred in American history, all they need is one accusation that you did something sexually, and particularly if it's in violation of a white woman, that's enough to take you down. This is nothing new. This is not something they just started doing a couple years ago. The black man's sexuality has always been reason to dismiss him from any credibility he may have established before the accusations took place. The black man's sexuality is always something where you can make any sort of accusation, you could tell any kind of crazy story, or whatever the case may be, where people will just believe you because he's black. The black man's sexuality has always been something that has been fearful to other people. It's always been something that can destroy you in a second. And the reality is that if you're talking about wealth protection, that's what we were talking about earlier, and you're a Bill Cosby, and you're sitting on several $100 million, and then you're surrounded by a lot of Becky tears. You're surrounded by a lot of predators. You're surrounded by a lot of very desperate people in Hollywood. You're surrounded by people who know your vulnerability, who know that they can just accuse you of anything. Um, you have to consider your personal life to be part of your strategy for protecting your empire. And I'm not kidding. I'm not, and again, I'm not armchair quarterbacking the life of Bill Cosby. He has complications in his life that most of us probably couldn't even understand. But I will tell you that if I'm in Bill Cosby's position, I would literally not even have a private conversation with anybody if I did not trust that person. I would not ever be in a hotel room alone with anyone that I did not know extremely well. Because remember, when you go into that hotel room, and this is me giving you a little bit of a glimpse into my real life. I'm just telling you a little bit of truth about my real life. Um, I've interacted with women. I do business with women. I'm a part of Fly Nubian Queen. There are lots of women that come through Fly Nubian Queen. No, no, you're not coming to my hotel room to talk to me alone. Unless I've known you a good decade or so. Like, because I need to know that you're not gonna sit privately with me and then walk away with a Boyce Watkins story that where you suddenly somehow make up this crazy accusation that things were said or things happened that didn't even happen. In fact, in real life, this is a real life story. There's a lady. She's on the internet. People know who she is. I'm not gonna say her name, but she literally insinuated on her YouTube channel that I tried to hit on her. And I was like, what? And somebody said, yeah, she insinuated that you were trying to holler at her. I said, no, I have talked to her 2 times. And in both cases, my wife was right there with me when I was talking to her. So I know your game. I know your hustle. I see people like you from a mile away. I knew that she was a gold digger, and I didn't have no problem with it. I don't care. I told you guys I don't judge all that. But I said, no, you ain't digging for no gold over here. The cupboard will be bare, ma'am. You ain't digging for no gold over here. So when she came up with all this, like, well, I really think that he was trying to insinuate that blah 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 blah. I was like, no, actually, I'm protected from that. I gave myself insurance by making sure that I never had a conversation with this person where there wasn't another person around, and I never once offered at any point to even sit down and have dinner, let alone meet you in a private location. There is no documentation of that ever at any point because I know the hustle. I listen to the stories. Y'all don't understand. I'm not just talking about my life. I mean, again, so take my life and multiply by 100. That's Bill Cosby's life. This man has a ton more money, a ton more power, a ton more fame. I'm just giving you a glimpse into what it means as a black man when you're talking about trying to protect an empire and protecting resources. The predators are everywhere, and then many of those predators show up in a little miniskirt and have a nice little booty on them, and think that because you trust the big button to smile, they can get right up next to you and get you in a situation where at that point they are then able to go back and tell stories and make things up about what happened. And even though it didn't happen, you can't unprove what happened. And the worst case scenario is when somebody accuses you of some type of assault. If somebody accuses you of some type of assault, you really are stained. You can't unprove that. So what I'm saying in general, and I know it ain't fair, is that if you're really talking about protecting wealth, you have to understand that you've got enemies both foreign and domestic. I want to say thank you. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done it yet. I want to say thank you to Cardi B. I want to give a public thank you to Cardi B. And the reason I want to thank Cardi B is because Cardi B, when she went, y'all remember that video? I've talked about it before, where she went on Instagram and talked about the hustle that the strippers do. That she and the strippers would go and drug men. They would get men that wanted to be all next to a pretty girl because they got a band full of, a rubber band full of money, and they throwing the money around in the club, and they in the VIP, and they feel like you're a big man. They said, oh, you think you're the big man? Yeah, you're the big man, baby. You're the big man, baby. And they would get this man alone, and then they would put a drug in his drink, and then they would either rob him, and or if he was really a jerk, they would set him up to be raped by a tranny. And the whole world heard that story. The whole world heard that story, all the way up to the president of the United States. The whole world heard that story. And not one single person treated Cardi B the way they dealt with Bill Cosby. Not one single person in any sort of position of prominence. Joe Biden still interviewed Cardi B when he was running for president of the United States. He would not interview any intelligent black people. He would not interview with any of the leading scholars. He would not interview with any of the political scientists. He would not interview with any of the sociologists and economists and people who understand the solutions in the black community. He wouldn't talk to any of the smart people in the community. He went to go talk to Cardi B and acted as if she never said publicly that she was drugging men for the purposes of robbing them and getting them raped. That right there is why I thank Cardi B, because what she did by giving you this information is, one, she put some of y'all brothers on game in terms of what you got to look out for. There's treachery everywhere. Number two, she showed the glaring hypocrisy that exists in this country. Because give me a yes or no. Give me a yes or no. If Cardi B had been a black man, give me a yes or no. If Cardi B had been a black man who said that same thing, do you think that the public would have had a different reaction? If Cardi B were a black man who went on Instagram and said, yeah, well, back when I was broke, I was really struggling. I had to feed my kids, and I had child support. And so what I would do is I would get women, that liked me because they thought I was handsome, and I would take them back to the room, and I put something in their drink, and I only did it because I was struggling because I had a baby to feed, right? That's what people do. People will justify They will justify criminality by saying, well, I was in a tough situation, I was struggling, whatever, right? And that works for a Cardi B, right? Cardi B said, well, because I was struggling, I was broke, I had to feed. I don't know if she had a baby to feed or not. I don't remember if she had her first, I guess she had her first baby later, but still, like, I was struggling. And because I was struggling, you now have empathy for me. So it's okay that I went and drugged men so that I could rob them and rape them. So in fact, they made a whole movie about that. They made a whole movie about it where they somehow they flip reality into giving the appearance that the strippers who were drugging and robbing and hurting men were somehow the victims, and that the men themselves deserved what they got. Like, that's what they do. That's how the gender war works in America. And the black man is at the center of the gender war because we're the first ones that get accused of toxic masculinity because we are an easy target. And what you got to understand is that this is not new. Like, this has been going on for 400 years right in front of your face. Some of y'all are trained to let your guard down because they feed you a fairy tale from the time you're born. They feed you this fairy tale of inclusion. The illusion of inclusion is what they call it. They feed you the fairy tale that Black history is truly historic, that literally that it's all in the past, that all those terrible things they did to you was something that they might have done to you in 1845, but we would never do that now. Right? They teach you to live in denial, and some of y'all go right along with it. Some of y'all brothers get a whole bunch of money, because you don't got that deal with the Dallas Cowboys or whatever, and you got all these women around you and all these people around you, and they looking at you and they licking their chops. They're like, I can't wait for him to mess up. If he pisses me off one time, if he breaks up with me, if he sleeps with me, if he doesn't hit it and quit it and don't call me back, if he decides to end his contract with me, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna tell a story and I'm gonna take him down. In fact, I'm gonna give you a real life story. I got a couple of real life stories that I'm gonna share with you because y'all know me. I like to keep it as real as possible because especially your sons, need to know what's really going on out here. But do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. And by the way, you can get a free e-copy of my book. It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. Go to allblackeconomics.com. The URL's on the screen. You will get free stuff from the Black Business School. The Black Business School, you can get started totally free, right? So don't let anybody tell you that it costs all this money, whatever. No, a lot of our students get a ton of stuff from us for absolutely nothing. Now, if you do have it like that, like if you have the ability to support, then we appreciate you signing up for a class because that actually helps us to pay our Black employees and the people that work on our team. But if you don't have any money, that's okay. We will not turn you away. We want everybody to have the opportunity to learn. So start at allblackeconomics.com. You get a free e-copy of my book. And also, I will send you a ton of stuff for nothing, right? So just know that that's there. Now, with that said, here's a real life story. Two real life stories I want to share with you, and then I'm gonna break on out of here. And this has to do with wealth. So Cosby's wealth is still good. They say he's worth 400 million. This man's probably tied up in litigation like crazy. He's gonna be in litigation till the day he dies. And also, now I think he has the ability to make money. He can go on tour. He can do a lot of things. In fact, I would love to have Cosby. If Cosby ever wanted to come on this platform, I would have no problem bringing him in. I would love to have him on here. I would love to support him if he did live events or anything like that. Like, just so if you're Cosby, if you're one of Cosby's people and you're listening, just know that he does have support from Boyce Watkins. Not support in the sense that we believe that he didn't do anything wrong, but support in the sense that we believe he was unjustly incarcerated. Those are two different things, right? So with that said, the real life story I want to share with you now. One, you saw this in the media, and you may have missed it though. There was a football player that plays for the Dallas Cowboys. Now he's the running back. He went to Ohio State. Somebody give me his name in the chat because I can't remember his name. And his father is a follower of mine on Facebook, actually. And we're actually Facebook friends, but I can't remember the brother's name. He's really good. He's super talented. He won the championship for Ohio State. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye, so I should know his name, but for some reason his name isn't coming to Zeke Elliott. That's right. Thank you. So Ezekiel Elliott was at Ohio State University. Okay, this is a real story. This is close to me, right? Because I got my PhD at Ohio State, and I'm also a big Dallas Cowboys fan. I've been one since I was a little kid. I know. You some of y'all probably give me your condolences because the Cowboys they've sucked since the '90s. But Ezekiel Elliott was at Ohio State, and he had this white girlfriend, and this white girl that he was messing with decided that he wanted to move on. He decided that he was just done with her, and that's his right. It's his right to move on, right? Well, she didn't like it. She didn't feel like he had the right to move on. So she goes to a party, and there were witnesses of this. She goes to a party and she's banging on the door, trying to get him to let her in. And he's like, I'm not letting you in. I don't want to see you. You need to leave. Right? Now, again, because she's got the Becky tears, I guess, and the white female privilege, she's allowed to go sit outside and just bang away on the door, and nobody makes her go away or whatever because, I guess because she's white, and because she were a black man doing all these things, she'd probably be in handcuffs. But she's screaming and hollering, and here's what she's screaming out at the door, and witnesses overheard this. She's screaming, I'm that she says, I'm a white girl. I can get your black ass locked up and I can ruin your whole career. She literally was screaming stuff like that, basically screaming that because I'm white, I can accuse you of whatever, and I can ruin your whole career and get you locked up. So later on, I think she did make some kind of accusation, a domestic violence sort of accusation or something. And the NFL, I think, ended up suspending Zeke unjustly without any evidence. Now, eventually, I think that was all sort of erased and moved away. But this sort of is an example. This was a real life example of the fact that there are people who are keenly aware of the distinct disadvantage that a black man has when it comes to defending his right to be seen as an innocent human being. That there are people who know this. They know that, look, because I'm white and you're black, I can say things about you that people are going to believe just because I'm white and because you're black. And this is historical. Rome was not built in a day. American history didn't start yesterday. This is how America works, right? Another story I want to share with you guys. This is a Gloria Allred story, with the Gloria Allred Becky Tears story. I years ago, about 12, 13 years ago, and this is all back to economics. This is economics and the black man, and economics and black people in general. And the point of all this, in case you wonder, you're wondering, wait a minute, I thought we were having a financial conversation. Well, the reason that we're having this conversation is because we're talking about the protection of wealth, and how wealth protection means protecting yourself from all forms of risk that exist. One of the guys that I worked with at Ohio State, his name was Renee Stoltz. He's one of the leading risk assessment experts on the planet. He wrote a textbook on risk and how to identify risk and how to manage risk. I proofread that textbook. I was one of the graduate assistants that was going through this textbook and proofreading it, and it's read by students all over the world. So when you talk to me about risk, and we all know what risk is, the way I see risk might be a little bit different from the way other people see risk. I see risk as anything out there that jeopardizes your economic security. So as a black man or black woman, you have risks that other people do not have. Okay, that's my point. So that's why I'm talking about giving you all these weird stripper stories with Cosby, because I think it's important to give your children a real life assessment on what's really going on out here in these streets, like what's really happening in this world, so they don't learn when it's too late. They're not learning after they got the 40, 50-year prison sentence or whatever. They're not learning after somebody's killed them and taken all their money. They're not learning after they got sued and went bankrupt because somebody took everything unfairly, right? So let me tell you the story. So back years ago, about 13 years ago, when I used to write for AOL Black Voices, I wrote a story about a football player, a tremendously talented player by the name of Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor played for the New York Giants in the 80s. He was an absolute maniac on the field. He was extraordinarily good. He dominated grown men, one of the greatest athletes of all time, definitely one of the greatest NFL players of all time, Hall of Famer type level, performance. Well, Lawrence Taylor also had a drug problem. Remember 70s and 80s, people saw drugs differently from the way they see them now. Lawrence had a drug issue. That drug issue continued after Lawrence left the NFL. So Lawrence was into some stuff, right? Into the drugs and the hookers or whatever, right? Well, Lawrence goes out and he hires a prostitute, and it turns out that this prostitute was underage. She was maybe 16 or 17 years old. So Lawrence Taylor's story, I was writing about this story because I was given this information, that appeared in the media, and I remember seeing a press conference where Gloria Allred brought this young girl in front of the cameras and basically said, pay us money, right? That's pretty much everything Gloria Allred ever says. She's this attorney that kind of represents like any woman that's making an accusation against a rich, powerful man. And everything she says, it starts with Becky tears and ends with pay us money, right? That's pretty much what her whole MO is, right? And also, just so you know, her and her family, they'll work on both sides of the fence. Her daughter, Lisa Bloom, has continued the family tradition of shaking people down and getting money, based on an accusation. Again, it'd be different if you're talking about a conviction. It'd be different if you're talking about evidence. No, it's an accusation that is usually enough to get paid. So her daughter, Lisa Bloom, had written a memo. It's in the New York Times. Go look it up. She wrote a memo to Harvey Weinstein's team, basically saying, if you want, I can, if you want, I can represent you. I understand how these women think. Usually, if you start asking them questions and scrutinizing their stories, many of these stories break down. She put this all in the memo, and she was basically offering to work for the other side, right? And so effectively, this is what the family business is. The family business is, we know that certain men, particularly black men, are vulnerable to accusations. So we make money from the accusations, not from the actual evidence. So she does this press conference on this whole thingamajig, on this whole thing with Lawrence Taylor, right? And the girl's crying, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Lawrence Taylor's a terrible person because she's crying." So the fact that she's crying must mean that it's bad, and she was clearly underage. And I was concerned, right? I have daughters, right? Any decent person would be concerned about this. And I'm not sitting here on any level saying Lawrence Taylor's a good guy, because I don't even know Lawrence Taylor. Like, people ask me about people that, celebrity people, some of whom I met, some of whom I haven't. Like, they asked me about Charlemagne. Like, well, do you think Charlemagne did it or didn't do it? I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't know Charlemagne in 2001. Why are you asking me that question? I haven't even talked to that man for 2 years. But for some reason, because Kwame Brown says I should know that Charlemagne did something 2 years ago, then I should know it. Well, no, I haven't talked to Charlemagne in 2 years. I don't know what he did 20 years ago. Neither do you. Nobody knows. But good luck with whatever assessment you want to make on that, right? I don't believe in proclaiming to know things that you do not know. So with Lawrence Taylor, I do not know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. So I'm not defending Lawrence Taylor. But here's what I want to tell you. Here's why I want to share the story. So as I'm writing this story, and I put the story out there, stories read by tens of thousands of people, or maybe 100,000 people on AOL Black Voices, I got this email, this mysterious email that was written. It was kind of written in kind of broken English, but I read it carefully, and it just got my attention. Now, mind you, I get 1,000 emails a day. So if you ever email me and wonder why I didn't reply, it's not because I hate you. It's because I literally get over 1,000 emails a day. Even then, I was getting about that many. But this one just got me. This one really made me say, wait a minute, I need to follow up. So at the end of the email, she put her phone number. She said, call me if you want to know more details. And the email was like, I know these girls be lying. They be setting people up, blah, 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 right? And then she puts her phone number. So I called the lady, right? So I called this lady, and she basically, I talked to her, right? And she's telling me this amazing story that really fits into that Cardi B culture. Remember I was telling you the Cardi B story about how they would drug the men and set them up to be robbed and raped or whatever. So she told me, she said, I know that girl that was in the press conference. She said that they have a group of 3 of them, and they want to be porn stars. They all want to go to, their dream right now is to go to LA, save up money, go to LA and start making dirty movies, right? And now that's a hell of a dream. I kind of felt sorry for him, but I was like, okay. And she said, so what they do is, they pretty much do whatever they have to do in order to make money. But one of their hustles is that they will go to a club. They all have fake IDs, and they'll go to a club. They will study men. Pay attention now. They will study. Again, y'all think these women are stupid. No, they ain't stupid. They would study different rappers and athletes, and they would study, which ones had a reputation for liking the cheap women. They would figure out, like, okay, he likes jump offs. He likes the strippers. He'll go home with anybody. He's a sucker. He'll go home with anybody if you shake a little butt in front of him and tell him what he wants to hear, right? So these guys would come in with millions of dollars, and they would just plant themselves. The oldest one, it would be the oldest one, the 19-year-old, will plant herself near the guys, because she was drop dead gorgeous. And the lady says she looks as innocent as apple pie. Like, you would never look at this girl and think that she was on that kind of a hustle, right? I'd never forget the story. So she looks as innocent as apple pie, gorgeous, had all those curves that God only gave to black women, right? Or maybe Afro Latinas. Those are the only ones who got these curves. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And so every time the guys will fall for it. Every single time they will fall for a big butt and a smile. Every single time. And what they would do then is the 19-year-old would lure the man back to the hotel, like, yeah, baby, we gonna do this and do that. You gonna get some of this, blah, blah, blah. And then the first thing they do is they offer him a drink. And because she, of course, she brings her friends. And again, because you have drunk, you like the jump offs, you like the cheap sex, you're feeling like you're safe. You know, you don't put your gun down, you don't told your security to wait outside, right? Right? You got a big band of money in your pocket, so you because you feeling like the man. Can't nobody hurt you. You know, you sold 10 million albums last year, right? And or you scored 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So look, this cute little girl can't hurt you, and her friends can't hurt you either, right? Well, first thing they do is they offer you a drink. Hey, daddy, why don't you drink some of this, right? Or here, let me make you a drink, right? The guy would take the drink. He's knocked out. Boom, out cold. He's knocked out for hours. So during this time, what they would do is they took the 15-year-old. This is what the lady said. This is her story, right? And again, I don't know this lady, right? I just heard the story and I was kind of like, wow. And I'm listening for 2 hours to this lady talk and tell me everything, right? And I'm gonna tell you, my spidey senses told me that she wasn't making it up. She didn't sound like somebody who was making it up. She sounded like somebody who said, I'm sick of this. Like, this is crazy. You know, this is the public needs to know this, right? So what she tells me is that during the time where the guy's knocked out, they put the 15-year-old in the bed with the guy, and they take lots of pictures of the guy in the bed with this underage girl. And then when the guy finally wakes up, they basically would tell him, you have a choice. Either you pay us $10,000 right now. Remember, they didn't think big, right? They were just trying to get 10 grand, right? I guess they could have got more, but they would say either you pay us $10,000 right now, or we're going to send these pictures of you in the bed with this underage girl we're going to send the first set of pictures to the media, because we know the white media is going to eat you up. We're going to send these pictures to your wife, if you have one, and we're going to send these pictures to your team so that your team will cut you because you've become toxic. They don't even want to take the time to figure out if you're guilty or not. They'll just get rid of you just because they don't want those kinds of problems. And that was how they made their money. And I asked the lady, I remember kind of getting suspicious, like, so how do you know? How do you know so much about what they're doing? And she explained it, just so you, in case you want to know what she was she said that she said, I work for a butt doctor. I said, what? She said she worked for a butt doctor. And basically there was this Brazilian doctor that would come to the States every now and then. He would go to places like Atlanta where everybody wanted the butt injections, and he would do the illegal butt injections, and she made the appointments. And so she knew the girls because they obviously, wanted to get all the equipment that they needed to lure in stupid men. And so in one of them, she had actually taken her under her wing because she thought this poor, sweet little girl, the one who looked as innocent as apple pie, needed help. You know how it is. You know how we get into that Captain Save-A-Ho mode, right? Where we're kind of, and I think about Captain Save-A-Ho because Sugar T, E40's sister, was on this platform just a couple of days ago, and it made me think about that, right? So we're getting that Captain Save-A mode, right? So she's thinking, oh, this sweet little girl, all she needs is a little guidance, and she's going to be on the right track. Well, next thing she knew, this sweet little girl was trying to get with her husband. So she's like, oh, I ain't having none of that, right? So she put the girl out. So my point is to tell the story, to say that there are other sides to all of this. There are truths out here that I think that you want to think about when you're talking about what it means to deal in that Bill Cosby world. I personally don't know what Cosby did or did not do. I can't know that, right? But I can say that you can't convince me. I would bet every nickel in my bank account that some of the people in that pile of accusers are just there because of the money. Some of the people that were making these accusations were drug addicts. And so, if you tell a drug addict, hey, if you can sign this document, I don't know, give me a yes or no if you think this is plausible. Tell me yes or no. Is this plausible? That if you call a drug addict, a desperate drug addict who's broke and has no money, and you say, just sign your name on this piece of paper because we need volume. We need lots of accusers in order to add to the credibility of what may or may not have happened. So if you sign this piece of paper, then you can get in and you might get a check for $300,000, $400,000, maybe $1 million, because Cosby's going to write $100 million check. and we're going to split the money up 50 ways or whatever, right? Like, is that not plausible? Now, does that mean Cosby's innocent? No, but the burden of proof is not on the accused. The burden of proof is on the accuser. That's how the court system's supposed to work. That's what they call innocent till proven guilty. You must present a preponderance of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the person's guilty for you to incarcerate them. You cannot incarcerate them because you are somehow convinced instinctually that that person's a bad guy. That's not what the court system says. You can't incarcerate somebody because there's a lot of accusers. That's not what the court system says. You cannot incarcerate somebody because there are a lot of people telling stories that are 30, 40 years old about things that may or may not have happened, and they all happen to be white. Or you can't do that. You can't incarcerate somebody because everybody was crying at the press conference. You can't do that. Real lawyers get this. Real judges get this. Shout out to Judge Joe Brown. Shout out to Judge Joe Brown. Joe Brown is, first of all, he's one of the most amazing storytellers you ever meet. And when me and Alicia sat with him down at Tariq Nasheed's event down in Atlanta, I remember that we heard him talk for about 5 minutes, and I pulled up a chair. I said, I need to sit next to this man because he's got a photographic memory. He's incredibly intelligent, and he knows every damn story that there is known to man. And one story that Judge Joe Brown told, I don't remember if he told it on my podcast or if he told it when we were sitting there talking, but all that was public, so I can repeat this. And he talked about how when he was at CBS, this is in his words, he says that that there was a woman that came up to him at a party, and the woman that came up to his party basically said, do you know that man over there? And he said, no. And she said, well, that man offered me $500 if I would go talk to you for a while. And then if I went back and told the press or told the police that you tried to touch my butt or something like that. So basically, the guy was trying to set him up in a way where literally him being simply accused of doing something inappropriate, like touching a white woman, right? Being accused. Remember with Cosby, when I read the allegations against Cosby with Andrea Constand, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of it came down to him allegedly touching this woman's body parts, right? Now, again, the interesting thing about that is, one, I don't know how you prove that. And then number two, I really kind of want to openly ask you this. If a woman came up and touched me, touch my butt, touch my special equipment, right? And first of all, if Alicia's around, Alicia might punch her out. Alicia might be a professor, but she grew up in the hood. So do not try that, ladies. That might get you beat down that day. But if she did that, I don't know if I would have the ability. Pay attention now. I don't know if I'd have the ability to get that woman, especially if she were white, sent to prison for life. I don't know if I would be able to get a sentence where she was going to die in prison or spend 10 years in prison because she touched me in a way that I felt was inappropriate, right? So a lot of this justice system, the interesting thing about the Cosby case is that it reveals that a lot of this justice system is kind of like when you have an airline or a nightclub or a hotel. You've got the standard package that's offered, and then you got the VIP package, right? Like in the club, you got the regular club, and then you got the VIP section, right? Airline, you got coach, and then you got first class. And so when it comes to justice, it's like there's one type of justice that sort of goes for most other people, especially black people. That's like the coach. That's the regular justice. And then you got the VIP section. White people get that VIP justice. White women get access to that VIP justice. They get access to this awkward imbalance where they can go accuse people of things and get them sent to prison for things that we can never get them sent to prison for. I don't know. Give me a yes or no. Have you ever heard of any situation at all, anywhere in the last 100 years where a black man or a group of black men got together and accused a white woman of, say, touching them inappropriately, and that white woman got sent to prison for 30, 40, 50 years? Has that ever happened? Can you name one example where that has occurred? Right? Even if it were true, let's say there was a white woman, because people are freaky. Women like sex too, right? And you got some freak. I'm sure you got some probably millions of freaky white women around the world. So I'm sure somewhere there's some white woman somewhere who spent her whole life just touching men's body parts inappropriately, right? In fact, that even happened to me. I got assaulted. I went to an event. She wasn't white. She happened to be black. But I swear to God, there was a lady. This is how groupies operate, just so you know. And you might think it's weird, but even professors have groupies because they call them sapiosexuals. These are women that are sexually attracted to men who are intelligent. So I may be an asshole, but one thing I don't run short on is intelligence. I know that I'm smart and I don't need that validated, right? So this woman who was at this event was looking to try to get close to me, right? So let me tell you what she did. She stood to the side. This is what they do. This is the MO. They'll stand to the side and wait for everybody else to leave so they can talk to you after everybody else is gone, right? So I know this is happening. I'm not a stupid person. I observe everything, and I'm a realist about how life works. And I don't judge you, but I know I can identify a lot of stuff before it happens. So this lady waits until everybody goes through the line. All these people got their books signed. It's like 100 and something people. She waited like an hour and a half. I wouldn't wait that long to talk to me, but she did. So she waited, and then at the very end, she comes up to me, and I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm ready to shake her hand and sign her book, and I signed her book. And then she comes up and she literally lays her breast on my shoulder. And they were not light, like they were heavy. And she put her heavy breast like right there on my shoulder. And my manager saw this and she said, "Come on, boys, it's time to go. Come on, it's time to go." And I'm laughing about it, right? I tell you the story because I thought it was funny. I said, "Oh my God, that lady just put her titties on my shoulder. What the hell?" Right? But here's the thing, right? Not once did it even cross my mind to go to the police and say, "Yeah, officer, she should get 20 years in prison because she put her titties on my shoulder." Right? Now, again, flip the gender. I'm making this point. I'm not just to tell a stupid story, right? This a glimpse into the weird life, my weird life. But I'm not telling this just to tell the story. I'm sharing this to make a point. So flip the gender. Flip the gender. What if I'd been a woman? Let's say I was a white woman. And let's say that she was a black man. And let's say that the black man put something, from his body onto her. He rubbed something up against her, if you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It would be a whole different story, wouldn't it? It would take on a whole different level of seriousness, wouldn't it? Give me a yes or no if you get what I'm saying here. Give me a yes or no if you get my point. Sometimes I tell long-winded stories, but there's usually a point to every story that I tell you. It would be seen completely different. He'd be facing 20, 30 years in prison or 10 years in prison. His reputation would be ruined. If he had any reputation, he'd probably lose his job. If he's rich, he would lose his wealth. I could sue him for $20 million and say, you put your body part on me. How dare you? How dare you? Right? So in America, you have two different kinds of justice systems. Black men don't have the same access that white people have. We know these things, right? Now, the difference between me and a black liberal is because I'm not a liberal. I don't get into all the nonsense. I don't get into Hollywood behavior. I'm not into all the nonsense that they, with the pronouns. And I believe that there's two genders, or at least maybe two and a half. I don't believe that, or that a boy who decides he wants to be a girl should be able to compete with girls. I think that's kind of stupid, right? So I'm not a liberal, but I agree with some liberal ideas, but I'm not a liberal. The difference between me and a liberal is this. We will notice the same thing, that America is not fair. That being black means that you're not going to get the same access and opportunities as everybody else. Where we differ is not in the symptoms or the diagnosis of the disease. We differ in our perception of the cure. So the cure that the black liberal presents is one that speaks to this false illusional concept called equality. That somehow, if we keep trying and keep telling white people how much this hurts our feelings, and we keep begging them and letting them know that this ain't right, that one day they're going to wake up and decide to stop being white. That one day white folks are just going to wake up one day and decide that, hey, you know what? We're going to give you exactly the same opportunities that we give ourselves, right? That you will come into this white-owned company and the black man will get the same opportunities he would get as a white boy with the same credentials. I am not into fairy tales. I'm just not into that. Maybe I'm a pessimist, but I'm not persuaded by any of that. I'm the guy who says that this is what it is. I hope that it gets better, but instead of waiting for white people to make it better, we can make it better too by getting the hell away from the systems and individuals who make it their life mission to destroy us. I'm the guy who would sit down with a Bill Cosby and I would say, yes, you are right. This was not fair. They should not have done this to you. Yes, this was an unjust incarceration. This was crazy, right? I would say all of that. But then I would say, what were you doing in the hotel rooms with all those raggedy ass women in the first place? Why did you even allow yourself? I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that I can judge your choice on what kind of husband you want to be. That's between you and Camille. But my God, you know, that those strong women around you, the Camilles and the Felicia Rashads, those are the ones who've been protecting us since slavery. And now that you got a little bit of money, you want to stray away from the black women who protect and defend you, and you want to go stray away to these Beckys that didn't want shit to do with you when you didn't have no money. When you were broke and struggling, they didn't want to know your name. But now that you are the man and you're the center of attention, they all want to be around you. Don't fall for the okie doke, man. That's going to get you in trouble. And here's the other thing. This is the last story I'm going to tell, but it's relevant, and I hope you'll hear me out on this last one. If you could, before I move on, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. If you have not done that yet, please do that. We need your support because y'all know that we talk about some interesting things here that are a little bit different from mainstream media, a lot different, actually. And I want intelligent black people to come together. I met a doctor here when I was in Vegas, and she said, we need to gather the intelligent black people because the ignorant seems to be winning. So if you know other intelligent black people, please introduce them to the platform. Follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. We're almost at 300,000 on Instagram, which is actually kind of cool because I kick away because I'm so direct with people that I probably lose 1,000 subscribers a week, right? But I'll gain 2,000 or 3,000, right? So the good outweighs the bad, but it's okay. I like the filtering process. I like filtering out the nonsense and bringing in people that actually have common sense. So please consider yourself to be part of that tribe. If you want to come follow us, the Instagram is right there on the screen, The Real Boyce Watkins. Last story. I went to go give a speech down in Texas, and I think I was in either Dallas or Houston. I want to say Houston, if I'm not mistaken. And there was this young kid that was there who was about 19 years old. And this kid, was following me around. He was asking me lots of questions and literally just, I mean, he probably asked me 50 questions. And he was following me around. And it was kind of tough because there were a lot of people there and I was trying to talk to everybody, but he just really had a lot to say to me. And I was like, I'm patient with that because I love it when young people listen, because that'll save you a lot of problems. A lot of young people don't, they want to do it all by themselves and figure it out on their own. And then they make the same mistakes that their parents made, right? So I thought that was great. And he was a smart guy, and he was a student at Stanford. He was a Stanford sophomore. And so I remember just talking to him for a while. And eventually, after everybody left, I got some time to talk to this young man. And I was really intrigued because he kept on. He just wouldn't walk away. You know, I'm like, okay, do you have a daddy? You know, like I was, those are the things that go through my mind. And I don't remember the answer to the question, but we talked about his past. And let me tell you what happened to this young man. This story is fascinating, and it feeds exactly into the point that I'm making here today. So he said, Dr. Watkins, to be honest with you, about 2-3 years ago, I didn't listen to people like you. He said, I would have thought that you were a race baiter. I just thought that people, stuff that people like you said was stupid, that racism was a thing of the past, that America was a better country. And I said, so what happened? What changed your thinking? He said, well, in high school, I was the captain of the football team. He was a football star. And he said, I also was an actor, and we would be in these productions. And I was a straight A student, and I was very popular. I think he was the homecoming king or something like that, right? And he could have been a valedictorian. I mean, he was all these things. He was really on top of his stuff. And he said, I had a white girlfriend. And he said, he actually, I don't know if this was his girlfriend, but he said, basically he slept with a white girl, and she accused him of assault. And he said, I didn't do it. And he said that, he said, what really affected me was that all of the white people that I thought were my friends, that all of the people that I thought I was cool with, who I thought would at least hear me out, he said, he said, they all stopped talking to me. He said, they all started treating me like I was guilty without even hearing my side of the story. And he said, it really hurt my feelings. Now pay attention now. This is important. He said, so literally at that same time we were doing a play. He said, literally, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. He said that the play they were doing at school, get this, the play was called Black Lives Matter. right? So all these white people that were in this play with him called Black Lives Matter were not speaking to him because they believed that he was guilty of what he was accused of, right? And listen to this. He said, the only people that stood by me were the black women who were in the play. He said it was only the black women that I was in the play with who understood what I was going through, who even heard me out. And I said, yeah, man. I said, black women have been protecting us since slavery. That's important for us to understand that. And but because he was the homecoming king and he was the captain of the football team and he had access to all these other people, he didn't really quite understand that. So he learned that the hard way. So check this out. So it turned out that he was innocent because basically it was revealed that she had a lot of mental health issues and that she had falsely accused other people, right? So everything was dropped. All the charges were dropped. He said, so everything got dropped. I got to go to Stanford. But what he said was, he said, I was traumatized. He said, after that happened, he said, I was so scared that I wouldn't even go on a date with a girl because I didn't know if somebody was going to lie on me and I was going to be victimized again. Right. And then there's more to the story. Check this out. So then he goes to Stanford, right? And he says, so when I get to Stanford, he said, first thing they asked me they make everybody on our dorm room, on our dorm door, we have to put our pronouns up, right? Our preferred pronouns. And he said, he's like, I didn't want to do that because I'm just a guy. Like, what are you talking about? And he said that I was going to get punished because I wouldn't put my preferred pronouns on my door. Now, I don't know. I got to confirm that part. I don't know. But then then he said that he said, I went to a black student union meeting. So he said, I was thinking, okay, this is where I can get around my own people and I could tell my story about how traumatized I was and how it felt to be falsely accused. And check this out. He said that. So I started talking and telling my story, and the one of the heads of the group literally stood up and said something like, "We don't want to hear you speaking anymore with your black male. You have your straight black male privilege, so we need you to just be quiet." So he said, I couldn't believe that black people were telling me that because I have straight black male privilege, I cannot tell my story about how I was traumatized from being accused of falsely of assault. And this kind of story is the kind of story that I hope you will share with your sons, especially before it's too late. They need to hear this stuff from people like us who really care about them instead of going along with mainstream media where they're not going to tell these stories, because the way they tell the story is the only way you'll be accused is if you actually did something. So if you don't ever do anything wrong, then you have nothing to worry about, right? That's what they tell you, right? But that's not true. The data shows that's not true. The data shows that the reason that millions of people were happy to see Bill Cosby get released is because they understand how America works. They understand the long history of false accusations. And so that's my only point on the issue. I'm done talking about it. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys get back to your day. But my point in bringing all this whole conversation up is to make it 100% clear that when you talk about protecting your wealth, you have to think about all things that can undermine what you're trying to do. Bill Cosby, I think, has a good chance of dying with a reasonably strong legacy. I don't know. Give me a yes or no. Give me a yes or no. How many of you still plan to watch reruns of the Cosby Show with your kids after this is over? Give me a yes or no. A yes or no. And shout out to Daryl Bell. Daryl Bell played Ron on The Different World, and Daryl and I are very good friends, and I love Daryl. I got to give him a call because he's one of the smartest guys I know and one of the most decent human beings I've ever met. And I know Alicia and we already had our kids watching Cosby Show before before all this even happened. And we're going to watch Cosby Show after it happens. And that's largely because a man being accused of something like this does not mean he does not have a right to get some credit for the good things he did. I think that we need more balance. I think that the balanced people who are not extremists have to be extreme in promoting balance, right? So you have to be as extreme as the extremists when it comes to saying stop the nonsense. Stop getting to the point where somebody's either an angel or a devil. One minute you're telling me Joe Biden is a wonderful guy. The next minute you're telling me Bill Cosby never did anything good. Just shut up, because you sound stupid. You sound stupid. How about we meet somewhere in the middle? And I'm really calling out to the people who are in the middle. I'm talking to the people that have common sense. That's why I shout out to the intelligent Black people. I'm not talking about your education or your income level. I'm talking about your commitment to actually seeking truth and fairness. Fairness says Cosby should never have been locked up in the first place. And the people who are saying that he should are just unfair people. They would not want their own children to be subjected to that kind of kangaroo court justice. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. They wouldn't want to have to live under the same legal system that the Black man lives under. They would be able to tolerate it. Or people like Mark Lamont Hill, who thinks that who called Cosby a sexual predator and he should be in prison. He's not. Shut up, man. Just shut up. It's stupid. It's stupid. And the bias gets shown very clearly because Mark is upset because Cosby tried to get him fired from Temple. Mark is upset because Cosby would not speak to him. That's why Mark Lamont Hill has such an issue with it. So the same way that you're upset about the bias or the alleged bias that you think other people are showing, well, your bias kind of shows by the fact that you're not trying to be in any remote way fair about any of this. That sort of bandwagon analysis where I'm simply going to repeat the talking points of a bunch of other people is just not appropriate for stuff like that, because it's that sort of bandwagon mob justice that has gotten thousands of Black men killed. Bandwagon mob justice has caused thousands of Black men to go to prison unjustly. Bandwagon mob justice, it causes logic to leave out the door in exchange for extreme emotionality. Bandwagon justice is an enemy of truth. Bandwagon justice makes you think that because a bunch of people agree with me, then it's got to be right because we get to decide what the truth is going to be. And a lot of white supremacy and these sorts of things, this racism in the justice system, it's come from bandwagon justice. My great-grandfather, shout out to Albert Sanders, who was my great-grandfather. In 1921, Albert Sanders, my great-grandfather, was in a grocery store with his wife, and a white man out of nowhere comes up and steps on his wife's foot. So my great-grandfather was with his wife, who was my great-grandmother. She tells the white man, you need to apologize. Get out of my face. And the white man says something, he calls her the N-word and says something else inappropriate. So my great-grandfather, because fearlessness does run in our family, we ain't scared of nobody. He takes a brick and puts it upside that man's head. And he lets him know, you are not going to disrespect my wife, because we also have a history of respecting Black women, right? So that's our tradition. That's the legacy I want to leave in my family. So after that, though, you can imagine the implications of a Black man in 1921 Alabama putting a brick upside the head of a white man. So then that vigilante mob justice kicks in. He doesn't get a trial. They don't wait for his arraignment. They don't appoint him a quality lawyer to make sure that all the facts are revealed in the case. No, they just hung him. They just got together as a mob and went to his house and pulled him out, and they hung him from a tree. That's how my great-grandfather, Albert Sanders, died 100 years ago, almost 100 years ago to this year. Around the same time as Black Wall Street, that's how he got killed. And the thing is that my great-grandfather was not the only one. He wasn't the only one that had this story. This is just a story in the lineage of in my lineage, in the Dr. Boyce Watkins lineage. But this has happened in many of your own families too. And it's happened for hundreds of years. So if that's been happening for hundreds of years, what in the hell makes you think it can't happen now? I mean, I say to my great-grandfather, that legacy of courage, I'm mentioning his name 100 years later because of the fact that courage is something that your children will remember you for. They'll be saying your name 100 years from now if you speak up, but they will not be saying your name 100 years from now if you are a coward. They're not going to remember the person who was just going along to get along and trying to just say the things that made other people comfortable. They're going to remember you if you stand the hell up. So what am I doing right now by saying some of these things that I know are going to piss a lot of people off and make a lot of people upset and cause me to lose friends every single day of the week? I do this partly because 100 years from now, I want my great-grandchildren to say, my great-granddaddy wasn't no punk. He wasn't a perfect man, but he wasn't a punk. He may have made mistakes, but he wasn't a punk. He didn't walk in fear. And I don't want you to walk in fear either. I want you to be as great as you can be, and I want you to tell the truth, whatever that means for you. You don't have to agree with me on any of this, the Cosby thing or any of this, but I just want you to tell the truth. The man is not 100% devil. He's not 100% angel. He didn't just do bad things. He did a lot of good, and he deserves respect for that in his legacy. Hopefully, he'll make the right choices with that legacy and protect his wealth in the process. So I got to go, guys. If you could, please hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. I hope this conversation helped you. Fuquan Divine, thank you for your donation. I appreciate it. He says, King talk, self-love. Yeah, there's nothing but kings in the building. So, kings don't worry about the words of little boys. And, we're here to basically lead and to do what we need to do and say what needs to be said and move forward in an appropriate way. And that's what my goal is. My goal is to be a king and to talk to other kings and to raise kings in our community. We have more kings than can't nobody oppress you. Can't nobody oppress a king. You can't cancel a king. You can't stop a king. So go be a king. Go be a queen. And that's how you succeed in this world. So hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Thank you guys very, very much. If you want to support the platform, feel free to go to intelligentblackpeople.com. The URL's right there on the screen. We'd love to have your support. So God bless you. And I hope Cosby's wealth continues to grow. I think he's got a lot of life left in him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for him. I'm very, very happy to see that he's released because that was a miscarriage of justice. That's my official position. You guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to go enjoy my honeymoon. Love you. See you soon. Peace.